It was a quiet night, the kind that you wouldn't expect anything to disturb. My friends had left hours ago, and I was alone in the house, still feeling the weight of the alcohol coursing through me. I had stayed up all night drinking until sleep finally began to take me. The room spun in lazy circles, and my bed became a haven that I was desperate to sink into. I wasn't alone, though. Max, my dog, was beside me, but tonight, something about him felt off. Normally, he would curl up comfortably in his usual spot, perfectly content, but tonight, it was as if he couldn't settle. I opened my eyes, groggy, still hazy from the alcohol, and for a moment, I couldn't figure out what was wrong. The room was dark, and everything felt distorted, like my vision was covered by a thick veil. But then there it was. Max. He was standing at the corner of the room, staring at me with an intensity I had never seen before. His usual calm demeanor was replaced by something else, something unsettling. He wasn't moving, just watching me, his eyes unblinking, like he was waiting for something. I tried to sit up, but my body was sluggish, slow, and heavy. The drunkenness still held me in its grip. I tried to focus to make sense of what I was seeing, but the longer I looked, the more it felt like I was stuck in some strange dream, unable to wake up. Max's gaze didn't break. It was like he was trying to tell me something. But what? His eyes were so sharp, so purposeful, like he had a message to deliver. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Deep down, I felt it in my chest. This wasn't normal. Usually, Max's presence was comforting. He had always been my calm in storms, but tonight he was different. There was a strange energy about him, something almost desperate in his stare. I couldn't tell if it was fear or concern. I couldn't tell what it was at all. But whatever it was powerful. He slowly took a step forward, still keeping his eyes locked on me. I could feel the air between us thickening. It was like the room had changed, like it was suddenly filled with a weight I couldn't quite lift. Max, I whispered, my voice barely audible. He didn't respond, just kept staring, and I felt something heavy settle in my stomach. A sense of dread. Was this normal? Was he trying to warn me? Every instinct in me told me to get up, to move, but my limbs didn't obey. I was caught in his gaze, helpless and confused. He took another step, closing the distance between us. His eyes never left mine. I couldn't understand why he was acting this way. Why wasn't he laying down like he usually did? Why was he staring at me with such intensity? Like he was trying to communicate something I couldn't quite understand. The feeling of unease grew stronger. I tried to shake it off, but it lingered in the air, wrapping around me like a cold fog. What was going on? Why did it feel like this night was different from every other? Max was always calm, always the silent companion. But now I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Something was about to happen, and I was too slow to understand it. I forced myself to sit up, still dizzy, still sluggish. I reached out a hand, my fingers brushing the cold sheets, but Max didn't move. He stayed where he was, watching. And that was when it hit me. The bond we shared was different tonight. It was stronger, deeper. He wasn't just sitting by my side. He was trying to tell me something. I didn't know what it was, but I knew something was coming. The room was still. I felt the weight of it on my chest, pressing down, making it harder to breathe. Max's eyes never wavered. He stood there, calm yet intense, his gaze unyielding, as if he were waiting for something to happen, waiting for me to do something. I tried to focus, tried to clear the fog that still clouded my mind. But the alcohol was a thick veil that I couldn't push away. My head spun and the world felt disjointed, like pieces of a puzzle that didn't quite fit. But then I felt it again, a pull, a strange energy coming from Max. What was happening? Was this just my mind playing tricks on me? Was I imagining things? No, this felt too real. He moved again, his steps slow but deliberate. My heart raced as I watched him, wondering what he was going to do next. Why was he acting this way? He had never been like this before. Max, my loyal companion, had always been quiet, always in control. But tonight, he seemed to be the one in charge, guiding me in some way that I couldn't understand. I felt the need to follow him, as though my body was moving on its own. He took another step, and I instinctively rose from the bed, the dizziness starting to lift. For a moment, I thought it was just the alcohol wearing off. But no, there was something more to this, something bigger. Max glanced back at me, his eyes sharp and focused. It was as if he was telling me to follow him, like he knew something I didn't. I didn't know if it was my fear or my curiosity that pushed me forward. But I found myself walking behind him, drawn to him like a magnet. I moved slowly, unsure of what I was doing. But as I followed Max through the house, a part of me knew this wasn't normal. I couldn't explain it, but something was pulling me along. I couldn't resist. He led me through the darkened halls, his movements fluid, purposeful. His tail didn't wag like it usually did. Instead, it was stiff, almost like he was on a mission. I followed him into the lounge, then into the bedroom. Max stopped at the door, his body frozen, eyes fixed on something in the room. I approached cautiously, trying to make sense of it all. What was he trying to show me? The room was empty, save for the usual furniture. Nothing was out of place, but Max's presence in that doorway made it feel different. He was still watching. I walked closer to him, my heart pounding. As I did, I noticed something in his eyes, something that made my blood run cold. There was urgency in his gaze, something raw, something that made me feel like I was on the verge of uncovering something terrible. I knelt beside him, my hands trembling as I reached out to touch him. He didn't flinch, he didn't move, he just kept staring ahead as though waiting for something to happen. "Max, what's going on?" I whispered, my voice barely above a breath. He didn't answer, of course, but there was a shift in the air. The room seemed colder now, the silence louder. It was as if the walls were closing in, and I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. I looked around the room, half expecting to see something or someone hidden in the shadows, but there was nothing, just the stillness and Max still staring at me with those intense eyes, urging me to do something. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing something, that there was something in this room I wasn't seeing. I stood up and walked around, inspecting every corner, every darkened space. But there was nothing there, only the oppressive silence and Max's watchful eyes. I felt like I was losing my mind. What was he trying to tell me? Why was he acting this way? Suddenly, Max turned and walked further into the room. His tail was stiff, his movements purposeful, like he was heading somewhere specific. I followed him, my feet moving of their own accord. It felt like I was being led somewhere, like he knew something I didn't, like he was guiding me toward something. He stopped in the middle of the room, facing the wall. His eyes didn't leave me as he stood still, his body tense. I felt my breath catch in my throat. What was he looking at? I stepped closer, my heart racing. As I did, I saw it, a shadow moving on the wall just out of the corner of my eye. At first, I thought it was my imagination, but no. It was there shifting in the darkness. Something or someone. "Max," I whispered, fear creeping into my voice. His eyes locked with mine, and I saw it again. The sense of urgency, the silent communication. There was something in that gaze, something that made my skin crawl. "Is there someone here?" I muttered, but the words felt stupid even as I said them. I turned toward the shadow, my body shaking. What was going on? What had I just seen? But before I could step forward, a cold breeze swept through the room, making me shiver. Max's gaze never left me, his body still as a statue. He was waiting for something, and I knew deep down that it wasn't just me who needed to understand. Something was coming, something I wasn't ready for. The silence in the room was unbearable. My breath echoed in my ears as I stared at Max, frozen in place. His eyes were unwavering, still fixed on the shadow that seemed to loom just beyond the edges of the room. I could feel my heart racing, the pounding in my chest growing louder with every passing second. Max had always been a quiet, calm dog. But tonight, he was different. Tonight, he was leading me somewhere, guiding me towards something that I couldn't yet understand. I felt a deep, unsettling urge to follow him, to trust that he knew what was happening, even if I didn't. I took a cautious step forward, my feet feeling heavy, as though the air itself was trying to hold me back. The shadow on the wall seemed to move again, shifting just out of my direct line of sight. My pulse quickened. "Max," I whispered more to myself than to him, but he didn't respond, just stood there motionless, eyes locked on the corner of the room. I stepped forward again, closer this time, my eyes scanning the shadows. What was it? What was moving in the dark? It felt like something or someone was watching me, lurking just beyond my reach. Suddenly, Max moved. He took a few steps toward the shadow, and I followed instinctively. He didn't make a sound as he moved, his steps so quiet that they were almost inaudible, but his presence was undeniable. It was as if his every move was a step closer to uncovering something that had been hidden for far too long. I stopped a few feet